What's up, everyone? My name is Jaya Tawari, and I know that I'm brown, but if I bomb this set, don't tell the FBI. I have been opening with that joke for years now, but this is one of the first years it hasn't really landed. Figuring out why would take like a full geopolitical analysis, but it basically just boils down to the fact that nobody is afraid of brown people anymore. Like, oh, just because you lose one of the most important presidential elections in history, your people aren't a threat anymore? I really don't love the rebranding from terrorists to smelly and disgusting. Like, at least terrorists carried some weight and had some power, but I don't like the smelly and disgusting because French people are right there. They wear way less deodorant than Indians. But I have beef with French people. Actually, I take that back. I'm a Hindu. I can't have beef. But I don't like French people because I had a French roommate when I studied abroad, and she hated America. I have no idea why. Everything is great here, but obviously America has its problems, but I would never admit that to a European. And so every time she shat on America, I would just remind her who saved her ass during World War II. And she would respond with, "Oui, oui, you Americans, you stormed Normandy just like you stormed the Capitol." I couldn't beat that one, so I fucked her brother. He had a great baguette. I studied abroad in Spain, but somehow while I was there, I never hooked up with a Spaniard. I did get appendicitis when I was in Madrid, though, and had to get my appendix taken out. So I guess at some point, I did have a Spanish guy's hands inside me. It was definitely my least favorite way I've gotten my guts rearranged. Anyways, for that joke and for many others, I was recently mentioned in a YouTube video titled "The Problem with Brown Comedy." It currently has 50,000 views, and the YouTuber said that he found my stand-up on TikTok, which is crazy because most of my TikToks are me crying over various boy band singers. And also, the most popular video on my TikTok is me posing with male strippers. Somehow that's not even the worst part of my digital footprint, though, because there's also multiple videos of me online dancing with the Costco guys and bringing you the boom. I was also recently recognized for my online behavior by the FBI. Unfortunately, it had nothing to do with my jokes bombing. It was just me facing the consequences of my own actions. So, for context, my dad is a die-hard Lakers fan. And not to woman-splain sports to you, but the Boston Celtics are the Lakers' rivals. And so growing up, in order to convince me to be a Lakers fan, my dad told me that the Boston Celtics ate children for breakfast. But not to worry, there's some hope. Because every time the Lakers beat them, the children were saved. And so for years, I lived in constant fear of being kidnapped and eaten alive by Paul Pierce. Eventually, I did learn that the Celtics were not cannibals, but I still have a deep-rooted childhood trauma associated with them. And so the other day, when I opened Instagram and saw my favorite baseball team, the St. Louis Cardinals, wearing Celtics jerseys, I knew I had to see something, say something. Naturally, I posted on my public Instagram story, @Cardinals, I'll kill you. It was immediately taken down. You can't even threaten your favorite baseball team anymore these days because of woke. I thought that was the end of it, but then I received a visit from an FBI agent, and he told me I was now on a watch list in St. Louis. And this is exactly why St. Louis is the most dangerous city in America. Law enforcement there is having to focus on shitposters like me instead of solving real crime. But since I could no longer bully a famous baseball team, I had to take matters into my own hands, and I created a baseball team I could bully. Do you guys know the baseball term slugger? No, maybe not. Well, it's a term that exists, and my team is called the Slutters because it is comprised entirely of men I have hooked up with. Every time after I hook up with a guy, I create a baseball card of him, complete with stats and positions. Not the positions you're thinking, baseball positions. So, if we made it to first base, he's a first baseman. If you saw some tits, he's a second baseman. a guy I can't believe I got with, he came out of left field. Guys I never want to see again are catchers because they wear a mask you cannot see through. Meanwhile, guys I want to hook up with again are pitchers because I need them to throw their balls at me. Then of course, there are the guys that have hit home runs. They're part of my batting roster, and they all have fancy little labels like leadoff hitter, who's the guy you trust most to give you a big, long home run. My ex-boyfriend is both my pitcher and my leadoff hitter. He's my Shohei Ohtani. I also have a scouting system for players who I expect to be free agents soon, aka guys who are in relationships right now that I eventually want to fuck. And finally, I have a Hall of Fame, complete with awards like most home runs hit, longest tenure on the team, and player most likely to retire as a slutter. And every time I post this bit online, the comments love to call me fatherless, but it's like, how do you think I know so much about baseball? This is my dad's fault, just in a different way. He did teach me things other than to be afraid of tall black guys wearing green. My dad is actually here tonight. Everyone please give it up for Dr. Tawari. My dad is a cancer surgeon, so don't really know what went wrong here. He is actually a cervical and ovarian cancer surgeon, and he has done so much for women's health. He's a huge champion of women's health and has saved so many lives. But yes, again, give it up for Dr. Tawari. But of course, when I learned where the cervix and ovaries were in 5th grade sex ed, that's not how I saw it. What I had just learned is that for his entire workday, my dad looks at vaginas. And so when I got home from school that day, I called him a pervert. Dad, I am once again so sorry for that. But clearly, I am a big sports fan because of my dad. My favorite sport to follow is basketball, but it really sucks that there's not more brown representation in sports. Like, when I found out that Steph Curry was an Indian, that was my 9/11. Because it's a moment I'll never forget. NBA viewership is actually terrible right now. It's the lowest it has been in years. And while I wish I could credit that to its lack of brown people, it's actually because of something way worse. The NBA's popularity is down because of the short king renaissance. Let me explain. You need freakishly tall men to keep the NBA in business, right? But right now, there is an epidemic of short men in the United States. Currently, the 5 tallest players in the NBA are all international players. Immigrants are stealing American jobs. And so in order to increase the supply of NBA players in the US, we need tall people to fuck again. But the problem is, tall guys are obsessed with short girls. And then they have the nerve to complain when their sons turn out to be 5'7". But I know this because I am part of the problem. I am not hooked up with a man shorter than 6 foot in years. And it's not even like tall guys are necessarily my type. I am so down bad for Paul Rudd. And he's like 5'6". I sleep with a pillow of him every night. And so, in order to save the NBA, I have actually been making the very brave decision to abstain from sexual activity. In hopes, thank you. In hopes that I encourage these tall guys to go hook up with the Megan Thee Stallions of the world instead. And so, in about 18 years, when NBA viewership is the highest it's ever been, I do expect a personalized phone call from the commissioner of the NBA thanking me for my sacrifice. And by then, hopefully, I can add to my baseball card collection again. Thank you so much. That's my time.